Canadian employment hits an all-time high, but quality of work has worsened. I'm Marco Perri. Welcome to the Perri platform. We've got some good news and some bad news today to share, all conveniently wrapped up in one article. The Huffington Post put out a piece today that highlights a recent Stats Canada finding. Prime working age Canadians are employed in higher quantities than ever before. They've nitpicked the data a little bit by using this term prime working ages. Typically that includes people from 25 to 54. It doesn't encompass all of Canada, obviously, as more senior citizens and students are not taken into account, but it does give you a window into the prime times of your life, which you'll likely spend working at a desk from 9 to 5. Fun stuff. In that age range, 83.5% of Canadians are employed, and as I mentioned before, that's the highest in recorded history. The records go back to 1976, so it's a pretty wide span. Congratulations, Canada, we got jobs. One factor that has contributed to this rise in general work levels is the increased involvement of women in the workforce. So, previously, you had roughly half your population, women, not being incentivized to attain employment, but now that those barriers are being removed, the figures are improving and fast. From a social standpoint, that's pretty amazing. Equality of opportunity is something that deserves our full commitment. Men and women, they should have equal opportunity to pursue the designations they desire. That includes working in the fields that they want to. Affirmative action, though, that's something entirely different, as it aims at the equality of outcome, which is a foolish game. But that's a topic for another time. So even if you want to be a little bit cynical, there's even a purely economical framework you can think of when trying to rationalize the benefits of having women equally involved in the workforce. If you don't have them involved, it stops you from maximizing your output from working age citizens because women are not included. It simply doesn't make sense. It's, first of all, wasted GDP potential. The women's earnings are not contributing to the country. Next, it's missed on tax revenue that affects the municipal, provincial, and federal governments. And thirdly, it halters innovation opportunities. It's a waste of locked up talent. So, there you go. You have the social argument and the economical argument for why it's good to include women. This is a stat that should appease everyone. Women employment has hit an all-time high in Canada at 80.3%. More households are now dual income, and if we're going to be candid for a second, that might be the way of the future, the new modern day setup. With the way housing costs are ballooning, it's really either you take home a six-figure salary yourself, and even that might not be enough, maybe $120,000 yourself to live in Toronto, and even then you wouldn't be living extravagantly, or the alternative, you find a partner to share the cost with. Even in that case, there's a little bit of a caveat. The two partners need to be making adequate amount of money each, maybe $70,000 each, a little bit more reasonable, and you can pool your money together and split the cost. If you can't do one of those two things, life is going to be quite difficult, especially if you're looking to raise a family. Then that begs the question of having both parents away full-time and working. Is that really good for the child? So it acts as a form of self-fulfilling prophecy here. Of course you have daycare, but let's not kid ourselves. That is less preferable to family interaction, at least during key development years early on. So look at that. You need this income to raise a family, but by pursuing the income, you kind of take away from the benefits and even joy of having that family in the first place. It's a very interesting situation that the upcoming generations will face in greater quantity, especially if the prices continue to raise at their current rates. Also, just for comparison, the employment rate among men is 87%. It's actually not the highest it's been. In fact, it's regressed a little bit over time, and some provinces have it worse than others. The current record-breaking figure that I presented to you that talks about all of Canada, it's largely powered by women entering the market and causing a massive surplus. One reason for the decline for men is that male-dominated industries, like oil and manufacturing, they're becoming outsourced or just declining themselves as well. Now, here comes the interesting part, the sad news that I was talking about. Although we have more people working, the quality of the jobs they are performing, it has gone down. This is measured in terms of wages. It presumes that the higher the wage, the better quality of the job. That's not 100% holistic, but at the same time, it's a relatively fair tool to measure general health of the market, and a lot of people would actually do the same thing, measure the quality of their job in terms of just wealth. Low-paying industries, they've grown tremendously, while the high-paying ones, they have almost flatlined, with little to no growth at all. That's pretty troubling because we have in fact gained in areas that we do not want to gain in. Low-paying industries encompass food services, accommodations, personal services, admin, retail, and even the gig economy, which is a problem on its own. That term, the gig economy, refers to things like Uber and freelancing. They've become quite popular ways to earn money, but they come with no security and often pay very little. At its original inception, these gigs were supposedly supposed to be supplementing a primary source of income. You would maybe drive Uber in your spare time or freelance on the side, but some people are using it as a primary means of making money, making a living. It was never intended to do that, and as you can probably tell from all the headlines and people complaining, it's not making ends meet. So hypothetically, the ideal scenario for Canada would be that our population has become more competent, develop productive skill sets, and are using them in premium industries like tech, healthcare, business, and even the trades, and so on. If growth in high-paying jobs was raising faster than that of low-paying jobs, while we were still setting record numbers for employment, well, we'd be in the golden era. You can pop champagne to that. In reality, we are quite a ways from that though. The current scenario is more so that Canadians are accepting low-skill labor, and our population is growing more dependent on these fields, which are often unsustainable given the current trends of automation and AI. The easier the task, the quicker it'll be replaced. It's pretty much a golden rule right now. What really makes it interesting is the fact that Canada also has a labor shortage at the moment. Completely baffling. Employment is so high, but we still have room. How so? The answer to that is at the top. High-skilled labor work is not being fulfilled at the rates needed because low-end work is occupying a large percentage of the workforce. You would much rather have that be the reverse, but we've been dealt the lesser reality. This could also be a factor that plays into why currently we're not experiencing any growth in high-paying industries. We currently can't even meet the current needs of the market. The demand for good jobs are there, but we just don't have qualified applicants in the numbers that we currently need or want. One reason for that lies within our university system. The common meme of students complaining about a bleak market are simply often in the wrong market to begin with because they've taken a non-transferable skill set to study. If you enroll in gender studies, history, social sciences, well, you've kind of set yourself up poorly in terms of employment. Now, that's not to say that these degrees are useless. Knowledge can definitely be had from them, but if you regard university as an investment meant to propel future earning potential, well, it really wasn't a wise choice at all. Oddly enough, maybe you could have gotten away with that in the past, get a random degree, and find a high-paying job in manufacturing or something, but the markets have gone through massive transitions since then. Now, it's crucial you develop a useful skill set that is in demand. We have jobs, just not these skills. That's an internal disaster for Canada because now employers are forced to look elsewhere. The work needs to get done regardless. As a result, we've seen an influx of international candidates who are highly qualified in their own right, getting those positions, but yet the shortage still continues. It's very telling of the misaligned system of, first of all, student perspectives, second, the education system itself, and third, the job market. The whole article was just amazing fact after fact, and here's another one that further illustrates the situation. Canada has the highest proportion of adults with a post-secondary education, that means either university or college, when compared to the other OECD countries. That's really an amalgamation of the developed nations. The percentage for Canada was 55% of people in 2015, so over half of Canadians have higher education. That's the highest when compared to countries like the United States, France, Denmark, Sweden, and the other members of the OECD. What does that tell you? Our students are pursuing the wrong studies, at least in relation to jobs. The country has a demand for a certain predetermined skill set, but people are not developing them. I've mentioned tech before, but even the trades are in dire need of talent. College and skilled hands-on labor is nothing to scoff at. It's a field that comes with high compensation and high demand. Really incentivizing, but at the same time, who knows why? Maybe there's a stigma against college or something, but people are not going into these things. It is a wasted opportunity, and it's not helping the individual, the system, or the country. Now we arrive at the golden question. How do we fix that? First of all, it's a multi-varied issue, but I think one place where we can start is in elementary and high schools. Maybe more emphasis on high schools. It needs to be made clear to students their options and the consequences of these paths they take. The job markets, employment rates, and where we need people have to be clearly communicated to students. Making a career-defining choice at 18 is often difficult, but telling students to do whatever they want is not good advice, contrary to what people may believe. They have to have the facts available to them to make an educated decision in line with what they want for the future. They need to be better equipped to thrive in a changing job market, and you can't do that without knowing the facts. It may come off as trying to impose certain things on students, but if we have a demand in these areas and we're not telling students about that, we're not conveying to them that they can make a honest, good living by doing certain things, we're failing as educators, and that's not right. This article just highlights the insanity that currently plagues our job and education systems. It does not have to be like this, really, but it has been left to its own devices, and now it has begun to devolve. That's not good for Canada, now, nor in the future, and it needs serious consideration. If these trends continue, it'll hurt the job markets, then the economy, and then the government will be in flux, and the people won't like that. It's a chain reaction of destructive events. And what I keep coming back to is that it does not have to be like this. We've boxed ourselves into a situation that we never had to be in the first place. The solution isn't even that complicated either. Just get people into the right industries. You start young, you educate them, you tell them the pathways, and you stop trying to glamorize and romanticize these useless degrees. And I mean useless in terms of job prospects. It's a waste of time, it's a waste of money, and you'd be better off studying a trade or something. There has to be a change in the way we view education and its linkage to jobs, because that's why most people pursue these educations in the first place. The real goal, whether you want to admit it or not, is not really to learn anything. It's more of an investment to better your earning potential if you want to be realistic about it. So, let's start treating it like that. Well, that's about it for today. Thanks for joining me. If you enjoy the content, be sure to leave a review and follow me on Twitter at Perri Platform. I'll see you soon.